Hey folks, this is Corey Axler here, and I'm going to be showing you now how I start the process of putting together a virtual choir using a DAW, which is short for or stands for Digital Audio Workstation. And there are a number of different softwares out there, and today I'm going to be using Adobe Audition, but you can use Audacity, GarageBand, Pro Tools, Logic. There are a number of them out there, and very similar, each of them. So you're looking at right now a bunch of folders that are labeled by voice part. And what I've done is ahead of time, I've taken all of the files of my students that they have submitted to me for this piece called Shosholosa. And I've already organized them in folders. So I'm going to open up the Soprano 1 folder. And you can see I have some Soprano 1 files in here. So I'm going to open up my DAW, which is Adobe Audition. And I'm going to go with a new project and show you how this works. So we're going to go, this is a new project already here. So I'm going to click on Multitrack, and by doing so in this thing, I have to name this, so I'm going to call it Shosholosa and hit OK. Make sure you know where your folder location is. Once you hit OK, you will see suddenly the screen has changed. Now, again, some of these things are only specific to Adobe Audition, and you'll have to learn your specific software to get accustomed to how you do this. So I'll do my best to explain as we go in generic terms. I'm going to go down here to my my file folder, and I'm going to just make it partially minimized. I'm going to grab these files. I'm going to drag them over into what would be considered the holding area on this particular DAW. And I'm just going to grab any one of these. I'll start with Pizzagoni and just put it over here. Now, you can see the visual representation of her singing. And if I were to press play, you can hear that some stuff is going on. You'll see a clap. And then she'll start singing. And we'll stop right there. Now that clap I've already preset in the guide tracks that I made for them. And that clap is really, really important. Because when I go to put in the next soprano, what I want to do is make sure that these line up exactly. And if they're not lined up exactly, and I start playing this, you will hear what it sounds like. Unless you're going for a round or something aleatoric, that's not what you want to go for. So in the case of this particular software, I'm going to stretch it out so I can see it better. And now you can see the file. So I can try to get them as lined up as possible and start looking at some of these entrance points of each of these phrases. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning of the phrase, and you can see my clap is pretty much set up. Let's find out. Yeah, let's hear they sound. Okay, so obviously that's the start. I'm going to keep on going now, and I'm going to add another soprano over here. And you can see that this is not yet lined up. So I'm going to make this a little bit larger of a view so I can get this set up. Trying to find that clap and get it all set up. It's not quite there. And I know that because if I start going out, you can start seeing these are not quite lined up. So I'm going to do my best to get them as lined up as possible. And that's pretty good. And now at this point, what I could do is I can make adjustments to volume. And if there's a certain voice that I want to be a little louder than others, I can make adjustments, again, on this software over here. Once I have done this with all of my sopranos, and I'll just pop in a couple extras here. and get them lined up. I'll show you what the next step is. So you would do this for one voice part at a time and get all this set up. I'm going to try to get that lined up. It's not quite there yet. And once you do that, what you want to do then is save it all as one file. Let's just double check to make sure that that one is lined up with the others. Sounds pretty good. Got one more to add in here. And let's make this a little bit smaller so I can see. And I'll move this over. Everything looks pretty good. This particular recording is a lot louder than the others. So I'm making adjustments over here in this software to make the volume of that particular track a little bit softer. Once I have all of my Soprano 1 set, I'm going to, in this software, go up to the top to Multitrack, and I'm going to mix it down to one file. So what that does is it basically compacts all of those files into one, and here it is. So the clap is hopefully put together. Pretty close to it, at least. Once we get to this point, I can do some editing in here, and I don't want to bore you, but I'm going to just take all of this excess stuff out that we don't need right now by just silencing it. Extra noise from the rooms they were in, some breathing, some just whatever noises that you don't want to have in the actual final product. Same thing with the end of this track. I'm going to go to the very end, and you can see there's some stuff here. Let's just play it first. We don't want that stuff in there. I'm going to grab this and silence it. And I'm also going to grab the very end of this piece, just like the last millisecond or so, and I'm going to fade it out. So now it's a clean cutoff. And there we go. May sound a little bit fabricated to you. And there we go. It does clip a little bit at the end here, and I can make some adjustments in this little area by just making all of this slightly lower in volume. And of course I can sit there and adjust to that the live long day. So then I would save this file as a Soprano 1 file and go through this whole process for each voice part, lining everything up until eventually I have one file per voice part. Line those all up, and then you create yourself a choir. You also have the ability, by the way, once you've done this, to adjust where you're hearing it in your ears, and that's called the pan. And that you can put it left channel, right channel, middle channel, right in the middle, or make adjustments depending on how you set your choir up. This is not going to be a short process, and you can see that just from this little tiny demonstration. But nevertheless, you do end up getting a decent product. I think, generally speaking, the most important thing through all this is having a good product to put together. So you'll have to experiment with your students as far as what they have. I found that iPhones work really well. Make sure they're not too close, and they're in dry rooms, like a bedroom is good, but not a bathroom, not a hallway, not a basement. And that they're not too far from their microphone within the actual iPhone. It does create a pretty good product. It's good enough, at least, for what you're trying to do to put together. So ultimately, you end up having something that you should be happy with. I'm hoping that this has helped you at least get an idea for how this thing works. Please feel free to check out the rest of my videos, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.